Before we start our Committee on Public Works and Public Property, the Chair would like to recognize the Council President, Council President Clark. How are you? Thank you for joining us here. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Committee on Public Property and Public Works is now in session. Clerk, would you please read the title of the bills?
Bill number 160867, an ordinance amending Chapter 16-400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Vacant and Surplus Properties by incorporating irrevocable power of attorney in all deeds under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 160973, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Director of Commerce on behalf of the city to acquire an approximately 3.4-acre property known as 4848 Island Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, together with all improvements thereon, all under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 161005, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to convey a parcel of land commonly known as 3550 East Allen Street to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development for further conveyance under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 161006, an ordinance amending Chapter 16-700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Philadelphia Land Bank to exempt the land bank from certain municipal claims and charges, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize that we do have a quorum, and it is present. To my left, the Vice Chair, Councilman Greenlee. To my right, Councilman Squilla, Councilman O. Is there anyone here from the administration that wishes to testify on Bill number 160973? Good morning. If you would state your name for the record, and you may proceed with your testimony.
James Tyrell, Chief Revenue Officer at Philadelphia International Airport. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Committee on Public Works and Public Property. I'm James Tyrell, Chief Revenue Officer for the City of Philadelphia, Philadelphia International Airport, and I am pleased to appear before you today to testify in support of Bill number 160973. The bill will authorize the City of Philadelphia, through its Department of Commerce, Division of Aviation, Department of Public Property, to acquire a property in Philadelphia which is needed for airport expansion. The property is owned by Today's Business Park Limited Partnership. The property, known as 4848 Island Avenue, is bound by Island and Enterprise Avenue and is adjacent to airport facilities. The property includes 3.4 acres of land and includes approximately 40,000 square feet of office, production, and warehouse space. The existing tenant, Today's Graphics, Inc., will continue to occupy 100% of the property on a lease that will be assigned to the city and amended to include standard city provisions. The purchase price is $4.6 million and was determined by an appraisal conducted by the airport. The purchase will be funded through the Aviation Fund. It will not impact the general fund. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today in support of Bill number 160973 and respectfully request that the rules be suspended to allow first reading at the next council session. Thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. And I see, according to the testimony, Today's Graphics is the current tenant of the property that is in question here. Can you please provide a little bit of background on who owns the property and why they have agreed to this transaction?
The property is owned by the parent company of Today's Graphics. It's actually made up of a group of executives from the corporation. It's a separate real estate holding company. The tenant has identified a strategy that will keep them in business there for at least the next 8 years. They are uncertain as to their tenure after that. So in discussions with the airport has identified its need for this property in about the same time frame. So the negotiation was pretty simple and was a win-win for both companies.
Were they marketing the property themselves?
They were. They had the property on the market. They had received 2 other offers.
And what's the length of the lease?
The current lease will extend for 8 years.
Oh, so it's going to extend. Okay. And you don't have any immediate plans for the parcel once the lease expires, or do we?
It was generally identified as part of the capacity enhancement program as needed for terminal expansion. since that plan has been kind of put on hold tentatively, there is no immediate need for the existing parcel.
Yeah, but I would imagine having control of that is in the best interest of the city and the airport.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Is there any questions from members on the committee? Anybody here wishes to testify on bill number 160973? All right, that being none, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone here that wishes to testify on bill number 161005? Chair recognizes Dwayne Baum, Commerce Department, 160105. And for the record, before you begin with your testimony, you know, the committee has received the technical amendments for 161005. So you may state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Heenan and members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. My name is Dwayne Bum, Senior Deputy Director of Commerce. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill number 161005, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey a parcel of land known as 3550 East Allen Street to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development for further conveyance under certain terms and conditions. The property at 3550 East Allen Street is a vacant site that is zoned for industrial use. It was taken into city inventory over 15 years ago following a sheriff sale to collect unpaid city taxes. The Department of Commerce has been working with a manufacturer in the Port Richmond neighborhood that would be interested in acquiring the Allen Street property to meet the company's growth needs. The company would make improvements to secure the upgrade the property to create a truck marshaling facility to meet its current operating needs. The property will be sold for fair market value as determined by appraisal. In addition, the city will require that the purchaser enter into an economic opportunity plan prior to conveyance of the property. The Department of Commerce supports this land sale to facilitate the retention and growth of a local manufacturer. Accordingly, I respectfully ask that City Council approve Bill 161005, and as the Chair has already mentioned, I am requesting a technical amendment to attach a map of the property to the ordinance. And finally, I'm requesting a suspension of the rules as to allow for first reading in the next session of council. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. I don't have any questions, but it does ring songs to the heart to hear that manufacturing growth has actually happened in the city of Philadelphia, as we've been working on for the past 6 years. So I'm glad to hear, you know, something in the positive when it comes to creating jobs and economic development in industry, and especially manufacturing. So I have no questions. Anybody from the committee have any questions? Is there anyone here that wishes to testify on bill number 161005? There being none, thank you. We will now hear testimony on bill number 160867. Morning, Mr. Brunel. Please state your name for the record, and you may proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Frederick S. Purnell. Good morning, Chairman Heenan, members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works, and members of City Council. Again, I'm Frederick Purnell, Director of Housing and Community Development, and I present testimony on behalf of the administration on bill number 160867, which amends chapter 16-400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Vacant and Surplus Properties by incorporating an irrevocable power of attorney in all vacant property review committee VPRCDs under certain terms and conditions. With me today is Susie Jarman, Chair of the Vacant Property Review Committee, who serves as an advisory committee member to determine if they should recommend or certify to the Commission on Public Property whether title to certain properties shall be accepted by the Commissioner of Public Property as stated in Philadelphia Code 16-404. The current VPRC deed language gives the city the right to revert title to properties after the grantee has been given 30 days' notice that they have failed to comply with the conditions contained in the deed. The proposed addition to the VPRC deed language contained in Bill 160867 will give the city the right to revert title to properties upon the discovery of a failure to comply with the conditions contained in the deed without notice. Consequently, if the bill passes, the city would have the ability to revert title to properties that are not compliant with the deed conditions in a more expeditious manner than is currently provided for under the Philadelphia Code. The passing of Bill number 16867 will align VPRC deed language with the current language contained in the Redevelopment Authority's development agreements and/or land bank deeds, and will provide an additional tool that will enable us to protect the city's interests in land transactions of this type. We support Bill number 160867 as a complement to redevelopment in the city of Philadelphia. I thank you for the opportunity to present this testimony, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And I also want to state for the record that we have received some technical amendment for this bill number 160867, and the members of this committee have received it and has been circulated in a timely manner. I do have a few questions on this bill. So what is the existing process of conveyance and or the power of attorney with the VPRC?
We now just have a restriction in the deed where we can take title back if the applicant hasn't complied in a year. After a year, we order an inspection. If they haven't, then we have the authority to take the property back.
So you have the authority, the power of attorney authority currently, but after a year and this bill fast tracks it?
It's not a power of attorney. It's just a regular restriction that was placed in the deed.
So what does the power of attorney do?
Well, the major change is that it allows us to take action on the property without notice to the landholder. It actually gives you an additional 30 days that we have a 30-day window where we can take action without first notifying that the recipient is non-compliant with the deed. So it actually gives us a more expeditious way to take action. If we would probably use this if there was a pattern of non-compliance and we had already had contact and that property holder was not responding. This is kind of like a nuclear option. We can take action without consulting.
So would Land Bank currently be the power of attorney, or do they have the power of attorney to take action?
Yes.
As it exists?
Yes.
So this will allow you to take action before it conveys over to Land Bank. Is that great to speed it up, or?
No, this is if we transfer title out to an individual and they don't comply, we have the authority to take it back sooner without a 30-day notice to the applicant.
Without
So
Land
this
Bank?
is right. So this is a property that's already been transferred out from the city of Philadelphia.
Okay, so is there a practice right now is there a practice now that allows you to do that without it being codified in law?
Yes. In the deed, there's already a reverter clause that we can take the title back. But I think that they just want to be able to not have to notify the individual with the 30-day notice with the power of attorney being included in the deed.
All right, and you're actually codifying it as opposed to, using it in the deed?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess just to make it clear, I guess the problem has been that, in a sense, maybe there's some property owners that sort of play games with this. You give them the notice, they do certain things, then they stop doing it, and then they, because I've seen that in certain areas. So I guess that's really the
And this gives us the option, Councilman, but we would most likely contact the individual.
Right.
It's a lot less cumbersome if we can get them to comply than to go through the
So it
process of
gives you
trying to refer.
your judgment whether the person's just completely ignoring the property.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, thank you so much
Thank you very much.
for your testimony. Is there anyone else here that wishes to testify on Bill number 160867? If you would please approach, state your name for the record, and you also may begin proceeding with your testimony.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Garrett O'Dwyer, and I'm the Policy and Communications Associate for the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, and I represent PACDC on the Vacant Property Review Committee. As you know, PACDC has been a strong advocate for efficient, effective property disposition in Philadelphia, and has been engaged in a range of efforts to reform these systems. I'm pleased to be able to be here today and offer comments on this bill. We applaud Council President Clark's efforts to hold those who receive public property accountable to the obligations and commitments they have made to Philadelphians. Far too often, property owners fail to meet these requirements for far too long, sometimes by months, sometimes by years, sometimes by over a decade, and sometimes they never meet them at all. It's clear that many simply don't take seriously the city's willingness or capacity to assert its interests and hold grantees responsible. We offer the following recommendations that we believe will improve upon the goals underlying this legislation. We feel that this legislation would be stronger and have a greater impact if it mandated language that specifically empowered the VPRC to assess penalties for property owners seeking to sell a property at profit when their obligations have not been fulfilled. In one recent case, a developer had acquired properties 10 years prior with one-year construction requirements for low-income or senior housing. During this time, the properties remained vacant and were subject to CLIP violations. However, when the owner came to the VPRC seeking permission to sell the properties with the income requirements removed for a windfall of $111,000 in profit, our only choices were to approve the sale or execute reversionary interest, which was not an option in this case. Ideally, the VPRC would have been able to assess penalties against these profits for failure to comply. Even in cases where the city could take a property back, it may simply be a better option to negotiate a payment to allow development to move forward with a new owner rather than keep it vacant as it moves through acquisition and disposition systems. Our understanding is that the VPRC has this power in theory, but can only utilize it if there's specific language in the deed to that effect. We feel that the inclusion of a provision in this bill mandating such language would enhance the stated goal of holding grantees accountable and ensuring that no one is able to game the system at the expense of communities and neighbors forced to contend with ongoing vacancy and blight. Another outstanding issue is enforcement. The VPRC has already mandated to attach language to all deeds that provides explicit powers to take property back that have failed to meet the requirements set forth. Our understanding is that the unwillingness to execute this reversionary interest is due to the lack of preceding enforcement actions over long periods of time. It's unclear whether this new language will change the city's position without overall changes to enforcement, coupled with a greater resolve to execute reversionary interest when appropriate. It's critical that council and the administration work together to improve these enforcement mechanisms for the goals of this legislation to be realized. Lastly, to address concerns that mandating this stronger language could affect project financing, we recommend that the VPRC be given discretionary power to substitute currently used reversionary interest language in appropriate circumstances. Thank you very much, Chairman Heenan, Vice Chair Greenlee, and to the committee for allowing me this opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions should you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Dwyer. Thank you for your testimony. Any members of the committee have any questions? Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
And put it on the record. If there are no other interested parties to wish to speak on Bill number 160867, we will now hear testimony on Bill number 161006.
Yes. Good morning.
Again, for the record,
Chairman.
proceed with your testimony.
Good morning again, Chairman Heenan and other members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. I again am Frederick Purnell, Director of Housing and Community Development, and will present testimony on behalf of the Administration Bill number 161006, which amends Chapter 16-700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Land Bank to exempt the land bank from certain municipal claims and charges, all under certain conditions and terms. With me today is Nicholas Scafidi, General Counsel for Philadelphia Land Bank. The administration has no objection to this bill, which clarifies that to the extent authorized by law, stormwater charges are among the municipal charges from which the land bank is exempted during the time it owns property. We support this bill, and thank you for the opportunity to present this testimony, and we'll take any questions if there are any.
Mr. Purnell, do you or Mr. Scafidi, do you have an idea of how many properties that are currently sitting on stormwater charges? And do you have a value of what those exceptions will be?
I do, sir. The land bank will own, at the end of December, approximately 2,200 properties, and approximately 2,000 of those are vacant land. The stormwater management charges are roughly $170 per year per property. So for 2,000 properties, that's an annual charge of approximately $375,000. Hopefully, in the coming year, the land bank will acquire more properties, and that would further increase the stormwater management charges that we would otherwise have to pay.
And have you coordinated with the water board that sets the rates for stormwater management? Are they in favor of exempting the stormwater charges on the vacant land?
I've not been party to those discussions, but I know that Ann Fadulin, the Director of the Office of Planning and Development, has spoken to the Water Board, and she's having those discussions separately.
All right, how will we rationalize the exemption for the municipal properties?
It's basically a budgetary question, Mr. Heenan. The land bank, as you know, is supported presently by funds from the redevelopment authority, from the city, and from the sale of properties. To the extent that the land bank needs to pay these additional charges, we think that would require further funding from the city. So it's a roundabout way of avoiding the funding from the general fund to pay water charges.
Do you know, are there any other classes on properties or in the city of Philadelphia that are exempt from stormwater?
I'm not personally aware of that. I do understand that the Philadelphia Housing Authority has a separate arrangement for its properties. I don't know how the redevelopment authority handles its properties.
But the purpose is to exempt them from the vacant properties from the stormwater fees, and then turn it over to the community for gardens and or reuse, is it?
In those cases, I believe the council's recent action would exempt those properties once they're conveyed to those community groups. This bill, of course, would exempt those charges while the land remains in the name of the land bank itself.
So not just for community garden use and reuse, this is for all vacant land, for regardless of the reuse of the property, is that correct?
That's right, sir, but only for the time that the land remains in the name of the land bank. Of course, once sold for development or for other community purposes, it would go back on the rolls and stormwater charges would then become payable.
Great, thank you. Wanted to get to that clarification right there. All right, any members of this committee have any questions on bill number 161006? Vice Chair Greenlee, you have any questions on this bill? Okay, none from this committee. Anybody here that wishes to testify on bill number 161006? Well, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, since there's nobody else here, we'll take a recess. Should I go in a meeting and take a recess?
Yeah, just wait for a second.
Okay, the Committee on Public Works and Public Property, public hearing is going to take a 5 minutes recess.
All right.
Okay, we are back from our short recess. Public Works and Public Property is back in session. We will now, seeing no, this concludes our public hearing. We will now move into our public meeting. The chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee on a bill number 161005.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the adoption of the amendment to Bill Number 161005. Second.
It has been second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The aye, all opposed? The ayes have it. Bill number 161005, amendment has been adopted. The chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee on a motion of bill number 160867.
Okay, so we move the amendments first? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of the amendment to Bill Number 160867.
It has been second and properly second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. The ayes have it. Bill number 160867. The amendment to bill number 160867. An amendment has been properly moved and voted on. All right, the ayes have it, so what do we got here? All right, Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee to move a motion to move all the bills in public property and public works amended and as is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the following bills be reported out as committee with favorable recommendation. The rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading next session of council. Bill number 160867 as amended, 160973, 161005 as amended, and 161006.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill numbers 160867 as amended, 161005 as amended, 160973, 161006. All reported out of committee with a favorable recommendation with the rule suspension as to be heard at our next council session. This concludes our public meeting on public property and public works. Thank you.